Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone. I'm Darcy Drager, the chair of the Morris County Democratic Committee, and we are here today with our CD11 Special Election Screening Committee, and we are speaking right now with Zach Beecher. Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to hear more about you and your candidacy. But before we get started, I would love for the screening committee to introduce themselves to you so you know who is on the call right now. We will start with Donna.
Hi, Zach. It's nice to see you. As you know, I'm the mayor of Morris Township, but I'm also on the Morris Township Democratic Committee, and I'm a district rep.
Okay, John.
Hi, Zach. John Aden from Florham Park, and I'm the chair of the Florham Park Democratic Committee.
Christine.
Hello, Christine Clark. I'm a member of the State Democratic Committee, vice chair in Jefferson Township, and a recent state Senate candidate. Welcome.
Sandra.
Hi, Zach. I'm Sandra Whitner, and I'm a council member in the town of Dover.
Tim.
Hey, Zach, Mayor Tim, Morristown, also the vice chair of the local Democratic Committee.
We also have Judy Hernandez joining us. She is multitasking at another event, so she is listening in. And of course, we have our executive director, Adam Cohen, who is running all of the technical elements for us. So thank you again for that, Adam. So Zach, we would love to start it off to hear from you about your vision and motivation. We'd love for you to tell us about yourself, what inspired you to run for Congress in CD11, and what is the core message you would like to bring to voters?
Yeah, thanks, Darcy. And I want to thank the selection committee for being here today to give me an opportunity to share a little bit about myself, my journey, but ultimately focus on the discussion around what can we all deliver for the great folks in NJ11. So for me, this story all starts right here in Morris County. I grew up in Randolph. I was the son of a police officer who served for 36 and a half years, actually started his career as a social worker. And from there, he met my mother, who's a social worker and started her own nonprofit. She's worked at for over 30 years. For me, service has always been a calling. It's been at the center of who I am. It's been what we talked about around the dinner table, and understanding the privilege that we have to solve others' problems, work with them to make our community stronger, better, and move towards the challenges to bring solutions has been what I've always wanted to do. And so I took that. Luckily for me, an administrator or admissions counselor makes a mistake every once in a while. Somebody let me into Princeton, and I was able to go on an ROTC scholarship and commission on active duty into the US Army on graduation day. Now, the Army heard that I had a fear of heights, and they felt it appropriate to disabuse me of that and sent me down to the 82nd Airborne Division, where I was a paratrooper. And I had the honor of leading paratroopers from across this country, from every background, every sexual orientation, every level of community in this country, in shared purpose towards a common goal, which was to meet the mission at hand and carry the day for what we needed to bring everyone home safely and enable our mission to come together. And we met the real challenge of that 2016 to 2017 when I was deployed forward to Mosul, Iraq. And there I led an advise and assist task force that was supporting our Iraqi counterparts in Mosul, a city of about 2 million people that was under brutal occupation from the Islamic State. And our efforts during that time were fundamentally focused on bringing rapid innovation at the speed of battle to make sure that our Iraqi counterparts had what they needed when they needed it. And I drew a lot of inspiration from that. I was awarded a Bronze Star for the results that we drove there. And I came home and I knew that I wanted to continue to solve problems like that at that speed of need, at that speed of battle. That led me to working with small businesses and nonprofits on the way that we bring together technology, talent, and community to move in shared purpose towards those big challenges and deliver innovative but meaningful results and solutions. And I've had the privilege of doing that across healthcare, critical infrastructure, energy, working in economic development in states as far as Nevada to shore up union jobs for strong mining and the green economy, to actually right here at home with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to help launch the Nokia Strategic Innovation Center here in New Jersey. And for me, all of that brought back the mission, the purpose of solving others' challenges, and the ability to build net new. When I had my son with my wife, we knew that we wanted to raise our family here where I grew up. And so we came home. And as I talked to neighbors, family, and friends, we realized just how bad things had become. I had been in despair when I had watched the president take his oath of office the first time, but I felt almost distraught at the idea of my son arriving just a few days after Trump was reelected. And I knew that I couldn't allow that in my heart of hearts to be something that I stood idly by. So talking to those neighbor, family, and friends, it was clear one thing. Folks are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They want a bigger, they want a better deal. And they want a fundamentally fair deal that provides the results that they need. And so for me, I knew that I couldn't sit on the sidelines. I knew that I wanted, again, to focus on the problems that keep our families up at night. And I wanted to confront the challenges, the costs, and the erosion of our social values and our institutions that have all occurred under Donald Trump and accelerated since January. And so I decided to throw my hat into the ring, stand for the privilege of representing my neighbors, my family, my friends in Washington to drive those real results home. And at the end of the day, I want to work for you. I want to work for the people of Morris County. I want to work for the people of Essex and Passaic County. And I want to drive real results because it's going to be real results at the speed of battle and at that speed of need that build the confidence that we are our best hope and that the opportunity is before us to shape the future in a fairer, better deal for all of us. So that's, at the end of the day, Darcy, what I'm looking to do.
Great. Thank you so much. Donna, you're
So
up.
Zach, this question has to do with policy, priorities, and solutions. What are the top 2 or 3 issues you plan to tackle if elected, and what specific solutions would you propose? Please move beyond describing problems and articulate actionable plans.
Thanks, Donna. It's a great question. I'd say there's 3 specific areas of interest: affordable care, purpose over profit, and transportation and infrastructure. When we talk about affordable care, we're really talking about the cuts that we've seen and the subsidies ending for the ACA and Medicaid. And as we all know, about 39% of New Jerseyans are somewhere on the ACA marketplaces. Those cost cliffs that they face have real implications to the life, the health, and the safety of New Jerseyans. There's a variety of methods that we can take to amplify and improve circumstances without taking the poison pill compromises that Trump's MAGA Republicans would force upon us. So the first, I think, would be expanding those credits and then finding offset opportunities within the tax code to better fund them. The second is improving the ability to use health savings accounts as a vehicle to provide wide latitude to Americans to choose whether they spend it on their health insurance or other cost points of care where they require it. And I think third is expanding mental health care and preventing private providers from slipping off of public providers' networks. Oftentimes, those who are in mental health crisis are unable to get care because everyone is out of network. We need to mitigate and realign the way that those providers can come in contact with ACA and Medicaid providers. Second is around profit over purpose over profit. And to me, this is twofold. One is around the cost cliff we face on SNAP assistance. I fundamentally believe that if you're a company in this country and you're receiving a tax subsidy from the federal government, you should not have a single worker who is on your wage or your payroll that is on SNAP. And if you have employees that are on SNAP, you should not be eligible for federal subsidies. That's a fair deal. Shouldn't have your hand in the taxpayer's pocket twice. And no one should have to work 2, 3 jobs to feed their family. The second in this purpose over profit is that we've got to ban stock trading for members of Congress and the executive branch. Blind trusts are a common sense reform to ensure confidence in the competence of our policymakers and their focus on the purpose that sent them there, which is representing and acting in the best interest of the folks across their communities. And third, on transportation and infrastructure, this state is the economic engine of the country. This region outproduces its weight in GDP 10 over. We need to be able to ensure that the arteries of commerce can flow and that we can amplify, not dampen, our ability to contribute. And that starts with the Gateway Tunnel. It starts with moving that from an authorization to an appropriation. It starts with using federal grants and innovation dollars in order to support the improvement and expansion of NJ Transit with its already state investment. And it also includes making common sense reforms to ensure that we can address major challenges in the floodplains up in Passaic County by refactoring the National Flood Insurance Program to make sure that we are not abdicating our responsibility to private insurance companies, but actually enabling the federal government to lead the charge, to recalibrate and realign our values to the results that we drive. So those are the three areas that I would focus on: healthcare, purpose over profit, and transportation and infrastructure.
Thank you very much.
Kim.
Hey, Zach. So this question is going to be on experience and qualifications. How does your background and your professional experience prepare you to represent CD11 effectively in Congress?
So it's a great question, and one I take stock of all the time, is we're always trying to listen, learn, and consider both best practice and the unique ways that new voices can add to the national conversation in the public arena to drive meaningful public policy. And I think when I look at my own background, something that I hope emerges for everyone who meets me is that I am authentically myself, for the good and the bad that comes with that, but I am also fundamentally focused on the mission. This to me has always been about the purpose of service and the purpose of solving our common challenges. I've served in the military, where you've gotten handed a task or two that you might not be thinking it's possible, but with the right type of communication, the right type of team, and the right type of dedication, you can overcome. I've served in the nonprofit world, where navigating donors and the mission and the ability to drive results that builds confidence in the communities in which you look to serve. So what does that mean in common sense? We've worked with economic development programs at a program I started called America's Frontier Fund, where we were helping state governments think about ways in which they could establish a real area of competition where they could draw the full talent and the full capability of their communities out. I mentioned Nevada before. Nevada discovered one of the largest lithium mines in the country, but hadn't really thought about ways in which they could plug into the broader green economy to most benefit the country and the state. And so we worked with them to build a plan focused on diving into research and development by collaborating with universities across the country, bringing in manufacturing unions to focus on the ways that they could plug into green battery manufacturing and the lithium economy, and standing up commercialization efforts to make sure that they could get the benefit of the fruits of their labor in that research, that mining, and that experience. And so in the nonprofit world, I learned that you can build strategies that drive real impacts for communities around this country. And then in the business sector, I've had the privilege of working with small business owners and entrepreneurs who have the gall, who have the bravery, and that intrepid value of believing that they can change the world. Reminded me a lot of some of the junior soldiers I worked with in the military. And we've taken companies from 2 or 3 to over 100 people that drive on purposes from everything from the energy economy to infrastructure to medical. Actually, I'm very proud to say that one of the companies that we backed when I was at America's Frontier Fund just recently received a $30 million ARPA-H grant in order to help more quickly and effectively accelerate the prescription drug identification process to collapse the timeline for phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials, which means better drugs with better results in a faster timeline to a greater number. And so these are the types of innovative technologies, policies, and strategies that I've had the chance to review, both be a part of, and build in my lifetime. I want to take those approaches, that outside the box thinking that's informed by best practice, down to Washington to drive results for our families right here in NJ11.
Thank you. Christine.
Hi, Zach.
Christine?
What is your strategy to win this seat in the special election, including outreach to key voter groups in the district?
So I always like to remind people that everything in life is actually a people business. And I think there is nothing where that is more true than politics and public service. So the way that we've thought about this is we have to both build the confidence and build our competence in front of the voter. So that includes building name ID, showing that we have the experience, to Mayor Tim's question before. And third, getting out there and meeting the voter so that they know who they're putting their trust and confidence in. And the way that we've thought about that is really a four-pronged strategy. The first is an effective field strategy where we can do a deep canvas. The second is a press strategy where we can outline and identify the new ideas and the new background that I bring to this role of public service. Third is a social media strategy to meet folks where they are. If you look at poll after poll after poll, Americans have increasingly moved to social media as one of their key sources of information and news. We expect to meet them there, and we want to have those discussions there. And the last is that we've got to drive a paid media strategy. We've got to be out there on TV, we've got to be visible, and we've got to be with them. I think it goes beyond just the tactics of an election, though. I think it goes to the way that we build community and the way that we build this mission as a collective effort. Part of it's been, and you'll have to tell me if this is good A/B testing or not, but we've been thinking about launching, or not thinking about, we are launching an effort called Barnstorming Beecher. I like an alliteration, so forgive me. But the idea is to focus on making sure that every community in this district knows that they matter and knows that their representative should be there for them, to hear them, to listen, and to meet them, back to my point before, where they are. So last night I was in Maplewood and Bloomfield. Over the weekend, we expect to be in Morris Plains. We expect to be in Montclair. We expect to be in Wayne, Totowa. These are all areas where we expect to spend our time to make sure that everyone knows that we want to be a representative for the entirety of this district. And so the Barnstorming Beecher idea is we're going to meet with committee members and local party members, but also local business owners to talk about what keeps them up at night, what's in front of their mind, and how can we best help. And then in volunteer operations, we're trying to build as big of a tent as possible. We want this to be a coalition effort. We want folks to see that there's a real movement here that they can be a part of and that they can put their shoulder behind. And none of this happens without capital. We understand that. None of this happens without visibility. We understand that. And so two pieces that we've also emphasized are our fundraising. We cleared $225,000 in our first 36 hours. We're extraordinarily proud of the confidence that people have placed in us, both in the district, but also in a generation of leaders in the country that are interested in seeing new leadership. And second, we've been able to build confidence and earn that trust from a number of major political action committees, like With Honor. It's a cross-partisan veterans group looking for more veterans in Congress. We're going to announce our first union endorsement on Tuesday, which I'll pre-code here, which is the National Association of Government Employees. They've got 1,500 members in this district. And third, we expect a political action committee called New Politics to also endorse us this week. We believe that speaks to the confidence that they see in our profile and the movement that I'm building, and fundamentally the ability to put a shoulder behind us to take this type of thinking, this type of pragmatic but principled approach to Washington to deliver results.
Excellent, thank you. Sandra. Oh wait, you are muted, Sandra.
Someone
I
was
tried.
Someone was going to get mutilated. We knew it. We knew it.
I got mutilated. All right, I'm going to ask you about leadership and collaboration. Congress requires negotiation and coalition building. Can you give an example from your career where you successfully worked across differences to achieve a goal?
So for me, I think you brought up such an important point, which is a lot of members of Congress have forgotten, which is that in Article 1, the founding fathers, when they laid out the Congress, it was all meant to be a deal-making body. It was meant to be a place where folks could get to their core principles, but ultimately get back to what we all know that we care about, which is results, which is how we're measured. And so when I think about opportunities where I've had to bring folks together, one of the proudest is really the New Jersey Economic Development Authority work with Nokia. There I represented America's Frontier Fund. We were a third-party entity, a nonprofit with a mission to bring innovative technology as the core of American competition to get better paying jobs and better results for Americans across this country. And it was deeply special for me to be able to think about the way in which we could bring that mission home to New Jersey. And so we worked with Nokia Bell Labs, their research and development arm, and the team at NJEDA to build out a strategy that ultimately culminated in not only the revitalization of Nokia Bell Labs in its new facility in New Brunswick, but also fundamentally focus on the ability for that research and development engine to become a jobs and a company creation engine. So by working across those differences, different alignments, different priorities, we were able to get a unity of purpose that we knew that companies should be built here, the future can be built here. We needed the resource and the alignment to do it. And by bringing those parties together, we were able to successfully, in just about a year, put the coalition, the partnership, and the details together to launch Nokia Bell Labs 2.0 down in New Brunswick with a strategic innovation center and a dedicated company creation engine where experts in small businesses, alongside technologists and researchers, could drive new companies here in New Jersey to employ New Jerseyans, attract net new talent, and improve our ability to drive research and development. And I'm proud to be part of the team that led that effort to bring that job and company creation engine right here to my home state. And I think that there is so much opportunity when you think about the ingenuity, the brilliance, the grit of the people across New Jersey to both fund that at the federal level and ultimately to drive similar types of programs all across this country to make us stronger, more competitive, more innovative, and meet the challenges of the day with new solutions to remind us that at the end of the day, we are our best hope. So hopefully that example of the Strategic Innovation Center is a helpful case study and where I brought folks together where everyone may not have started on the same page, but certainly had the same goal in mind at the end. We're able to pull those pieces together and drive it to a result right here that we can see in this great state.
Great. Thank you so much. John.
Okay, Zach, this question is about party building. Describe your efforts to help elect Democrats at the local, state, or federal level.
So I've been a Democrat. Well, here's maybe a quick story. So I had a grandmother. You see John F. Kennedy here behind me. My grandmother was an Irish Catholic immigrant from Donegal, Ireland in 1953 and was a house servant for the DuPonts before she met my grandfather. I promise this is going to come back to it. So growing up, we used to always joke as an Irish Catholic household that every room had to have two things. It had to have a crucifix and it had to have a portrait of John F. Kennedy. So if there's any Irish Catholics in the room, you'll appreciate maybe that story. But so for me, I've been a lifelong Democrat. I've always appreciated the opportunity to think about ways in which we can drive results. And I think a lot about President Obama's speech around how a one voice in one room can change the dynamics of that room, that can change the dynamics of a city hall, that can change a town, that can change a city, that can change a state and a world. And so where does it start? It all starts at home. And where I've been focused, when I was in the service, it was hard to be outwardly political, obviously in keeping with the Hatch Act. But as I got out of the service, became increasingly involved. I was involved when I was in graduate school in organizing efforts. But fundamentally, the place where I found the most support is right here at home. And over the summer, actively and aggressively, maybe ambitiously, canvassed for Mikey to make sure that we could drive the results that we wanted to see on November 4th. And I think whether it was canvassing in Boonton with folks like Ben Weissman, whether it was canvassing in Parsippany, whether it was canvassing right here in Morristown, the opportunity to meet voters, to talk about their challenges, and to take those problems that they shared with us back to the committee, talk about those, and think about ways in which we could address them. It gave me a real shot in the arm and a belief that we can draw real results here. And I think those real results were shown on November 4th with a 14-point decisive victory from the governor-elect. And I think for me, that canvassing, that where the rubber meets the road, is the most fun part of it. And I've done that here over the summer, like I just described. I think a particularly unique memory was doing that for Governor Steve Bullock in 2020 in Missoula, Montana, which is another long story. But the point of this is, I love that activity of being able to take the case to voters, to hear them, to see them, to meet them, and to be able to take that back in order to drive the way that we iterate, we improve, and we make sure that we deliver on the promises that we make. And so for me, that's been a lifelong project and one that I intend to continue through this election and well into my future. It's going to be hard to keep me off the roads and knocking on doors. I think that's where democracy really happens.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that completes most of our core questions. Now, one of the question I'd like to pose to you is you are currently running in the CD11 special election primary. Will you still pursue the seat in the regular election cycle if you are not the special election nominee?
In the
So
we would go to April and run.
no,
Is
as
that-
you would go to June. So we've got the special election in February with the special general in April, but then, and that's for Mikey's, the term that ends in 2027. But then we have the regular primary in June and the regular election in November, and that will be for the seat for the next 2 years.
Yes, it is truly a year of waterfall elections. We are fully dedicated to making sure a Democrat is in this seat. And we are running this race with a lightning focus, or excuse me, a laser focus on February 5th. As I'm sure you're all aware, that's just 63 days away. That is very present in our mind. It's the only race we're running. That's what we're focused on right now.
Okay, great. Then my last regular question for you is, let me find it here. You, sorry, I have too many papers, too many notes. Zach, just give me 1 second. Okay. You are starting your political career by running for Congress rather than first serving in local office. Given the complexity of the job, why should voters believe that you have the experience, judgment, and skill set necessary not only to win this race, but then to govern effectively?
I think at the end of the day, we have seen a number of extraordinary leaders across this state take a deep well of experience across different sectors, like the military, like business, like law, see an opening to provide dedicated, purpose-driven leadership, use the benefit of experience that may be atypical or out of standard for what is normal, and deliver extraordinary results. I think we actually just saw one win the governorship in November. And so when folks would challenge us on our experience, what we would say is this country is driven fundamentally by the idea that we can and we must do something when we see a wrong. Now, Congress is absolutely a complex place. It's a place that I've worked adjacent to through economic development, the business world, and the military. I can promise you that no one will outwork me. I can promise you that no one will be more dedicated to learning those nuances and those efforts in order to make sure that we can deliver. And fundamentally, at the end of the day, so much of this is about leadership, coalition building, and the ability to hear what is front of mind for constituents. And I want to go to Washington, not for myself, but for all of our families. I believe that the wealth of experience that I've had across different sectors, whether in business, nonprofits, or the military, makes me that utility player, makes me that person who can climb that ladder as fast as you need me to get to where we need to go. And I dedicate and I promise and I assure that there will be no one who's working harder, burning the midnight oil, and more dedicated to driving those outcomes. And I think this state has been well served by putting its confidence in those who have the leadership and the vision and the diversity of experience that they seek. And I believe that I can deliver and I bring much of that same experience. So I know at the end of the day that every election is about trust and confidence. And we're using this as an opportunity to build that trust and confidence. And that's what we hope to earn from every voter.
Great, thank you. John, would you like to move us to our lightning round?
Yes. So, Zach, these are, again, our policy questions that we're asking everyone. It's a yes or no answer. So our policy lightning round begins with, do you support access to affordable health care for all including protections for pre-existing conditions?
Yes. I could
Do you
add yes to 100x on that one. Yes,
Okay. Do you support policies that promote racial, gender, and LGBTQ equity?
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you support policies to address climate change and expand clean energy?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought up climate change. It feels like a topic that's fallen off the headlines, but is one that's both urgent and emergent every single day in our lives.
And do you support reproductive rights, including a woman's right to choose?
Absolutely.
And do you support protecting and expanding voting rights?
Absolutely. Every voter should have a choice.
And a final question, do you support comprehensive immigration reform, including a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants?
Absolutely. And it's one of the greatest failings of the federal government that this has been a persistent issue over the last 30 years.
All right, thank you.
All right, we now have a chance for our screening committee to ask any follow-up or additional questions that they would like to pose. I have one from Sherry Suffer, who is not able to join us today, but before I ask that, does anyone else have anything that they would like to ask at this time? Aside from John, who we will end with. Nope. All right. So Sherry Seffer, who's one of our screening committee members who who could not join us at this time, has a question for all of the candidates from a Morris County specific perspective. What policies or approaches would you advocate for in Congress?
So I think there's probably three areas that I would be most concerned about. I mentioned, I think, affordable care, and I mentioned purpose over profit before. I think transportation infrastructure and tax come right to mind here for Morris County. It's not that I don't think those other pieces are critical, but I think that they're critical for the entirety of the district. I think areas where this county hurts in particular are around transportation infrastructure and tax. For transportation and infrastructure in particular, I think that's around the Gateway Tunnel, but I also think it's around being more expansionist in terms of our understanding upon ways in which we can deliver dollars back to the district. Every single elected official on this call knows how much pressure is on the infrastructure here as this region continues to grow. And while we should celebrate that growth, and I know we are all excited about that growth, we want to also be able to deliver and facilitate ease of transport to make sure that folks can get what they need and where they need to go. There are opportunities at the Department of Transportation, whether it's NHTSA, whether it's the Railway Transportation Agency, whether it's any of these other areas of innovation, where we should be able to lean into and build strategies to bring those innovation dollars and grants here. And then I think around, as we move further along in infrastructure, there are certain floodplains here that come down from Passaic, being focused on reconfiguring the National Flood Insurance Program, leveraging the Army Corps of Engineers to meaningfully drive both studies, but also mitigation methods that can be funded by the federal government to drive outcomes are key areas of both climate change risk, but also fundamental risk that we face every day that we want to make sure to address. And then I think on tax, we've seen the punitive politics of Donald Trump impact on all the items that I just mentioned. But another area where it burns into our pocketbook is on the SALT deduction. And I think working to restore that, working hand in hand across the New Jersey delegation to make sure that New Jerseyans have an opportunity to both outperform in their economic measures across this country, but at the same time also get a fair deal is crucially important to people of Morris County. So tax, infrastructure, and transport are key places that I would prioritize for this county.
Great. Thank you so much, Zach. John Aiden?
Sure. Zach, I'd like to ask one question here. Given your background, your work experiences, and your time on the campaign trail, what is it that makes you happy about that?
For me, there is this excitement of potential that comes from every single conversation. And I think every time that we have an opportunity to talk to a voter, to talk to a community member, a friend, a family, It's hard right now in Trump's America. We face cost cliffs at every curve. That could be in our healthcare, it could be in food assistance, it could be in our transportation. And there is a real feeling of righteous anger, of despair. But when you get folks in a room and you have a chance to point out the power that they can bring at the ballot box, the power that their voice can bring in identifying challenges, and the part that they can play in building the solutions, it takes time, and life is never as simple as we think it is. But to be able to meet someone, to hear them, and to help them feel being heard, I know for me and our family, when we feel that elected officials take the time to hear what's keeping us up at night, that matters. And I think if we build a politics where that's common, where that's focused, where that's the point, we can remember that we're our best hope. And the ability to play any role, how small, how big, to make community members feel heard, to hear those problems, maybe to enjoy a good laugh, could be dark humor, could be light humor. That, for me, has been the most extraordinary privilege. And so at the end of the day, like I said before, to me, it's all about people and the chance to hear their challenges and the chance to offer them a bit of hope and a bit of grit that we can do something about it has been an extraordinary joy and a privilege.
All right, are there any other questions for Zach while we have him here with us? No? All right, Zach, is there a closing message that you'd like to leave us and our viewers with?
I would just say thank you again to the selection committee for taking the time to ask me questions, to inform voters, to walk me through this process, but also walk the voter through the process. And I want to commend all of you, I think, on the bravery to set this convention in a way that was focused on the education of those voters. At the end of the day, I think all of us are here because we believe fundamentally in the value of service and solving the problems that face your family and mine. And I'm proud and I'm privileged and I'm excited to be in this fight with all of you. And I want to take that fight to Washington to challenge Trump. I want to focus on affordability across healthcare, food assistance. I want to focus on infrastructure so that we can have the systems that work, that get us to work and get the country working. And I want to focus ultimately on driving real results with principles and a pragmatism that we know can deliver. So thank you again for the time. I'm very excited to see all of you here soon. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Great. Thank you so much, Zach. We loved hearing from
Thank
you and learning more about your candidacy and campaign. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 11 a.m. at CCM for our CD11 special nominating convention. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Darcy. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.